I just wanted to talk a little bit about chapter 1 of our transition assessment book. And some of the things that I wanted to touch on that are in the book, on page 3, it talked about how many students that became adults with disabilities are unemployed, which was a really large percentage compared to the general population's percentage of adults who are unemployed. And I can't tell you the statistics right offhand that I heard. I can't remember them. But I do know that if within the first 3 years after a student graduates from high school, a student with disabilities, if they have not found employment within that time, the chances of them not finding employment are between 80 and 90% chances that they're not going to. So one of the reasons that transition for secondary students is so important is to get them ready so that they will become gainfully employed adults. And there are many ways to do this that I'll talk about more as we get into class. But I just wanted you to be aware of that additional information that wasn't in the book. I also, in our book, it talks about how federal law says that you have to start transition planning for students with disabilities the year that they turn 16. That's federal law. In Iowa, Iowa law says that you have to begin transition planning as part of the IEP process the year that they turn 14. So you might have a student who's 13 on March 14th, 2015. Their next IEP is going to become due March 14th, 2016. So let's say that student's birthday is going to be August 4th, 2015, and they're going to turn 14 years old. So when you start this IEP today, when this IEP goes into effect today, you have an page B that looks much different than what it will have looked previous years. Previous years will be a short page to do. But now this year, because they're going to turn 14 within the term of this IEP, it's going to be a long page B. It's a pretty involved process where you're going to do all these different assessments for this student because it begins the year they turn 14, not when they turn 14. So that's one thing I wanted to tell you about Iowa law versus federal law. Another thing that I wanted to include is transition services for students end at age 21. However, let's say a student, let's say they're in transition services and they're going to turn 21 in October of 2015. So the school year starts in August 2015. They're in their final year of transition and October comes. Their transition services don't stop in Iowa at their birthday. They stop at the end of that school year. So even though they turn 21 almost immediately after the school year starts, they're going to continue to receive those transition services through the end of the school year. Another thing that I wanted to talk about they talk on page 7 and page 8 about self-determination and self-advocacy. When a student initially, has their first IEP meeting when they turn 14 in Iowa, you're going to want to consider working on a lot of self-advocacy skills. They need to start talking to teachers about the things that they need in their classes or the things that they want in their classes. And lots of students that have disabilities, especially level 1 students, which is mostly what you'll be working with a Strat 1 endorsement, they might be a little bit withdrawn sometimes, and they'll come to you and ask for things. What your job will be for the self-advocacy is coach them, teach them the skills they need to be able to go into the gen ed setting and talk to those teachers and ask for the help that they need. Also, when it talks about self-determination, that's when you're going to look at, after doing the assessments with them and determining what their interests are and their preferences, the things that they want to do after they get out of high school. You're going to start thinking about that now. You're going to help them choose classes that will start giving them some of the skills that they'll need toward that. Now, if you have an 8th grader that, you know, they're going to turn 14, they're in 8th grade, you're looking at high school classes. So if they tell you that they want to go to a 4-year college, you're going to help them pick classes that'll help them reach their goals. If they want to go to a trade school to be a mechanic, you're going to help them pick classes there that'll help them reach their goals. Other classes might be like, sometimes there'll be classes that'll give them skills in managing money, or skills in household type things that they might need more help with. You can help them choose some of those to meet those needs also. So typically a level 1 student isn't someone that you'll see using transition services that go to 21. Typically, I'm not saying that it could never happen. It just, typically a level 1 student, you know, they don't have major differences from their peers, and you'll have their skills met by the time that they're 18. I'm not saying always. I'm never going to say always, because the thing about an IEP is that it's all individualized. So you might have students that do need something else. But you can also be working with students who are weighted at a level 2. Since you're a Strat 1, you work with level 1 and level 2 students. And there would be more students, typically, that might have some extended services beyond credit fulfillment in high school to get them ready to work beyond high school. So I also wanted to be sure and focus on that. The important thing to remember, and it talks about this in the chapter, is that once a student hits 14, you may still be working on, you know, academic skills or behavior skills, or sometimes even speech skills, to get them where they should be compared to their peers. But the main focus starts to become transition, so that each year that focus is going to get larger, so that by the time they're 18, they're going to be ready for transitioning to a post-secondary setting. And as part of this process, each year, your list of people on the IEP who are invited to an IEP meeting should probably also start to get larger. You know, middle school, you're not going to bring in a lot of outside resources like Voc Rehab or Job Corps or other things that are available community-wise services. But the closer you get to 18, you should be looking, before you have an IEP meeting, do I need to invite other people to this IEP meeting that will be part of this student's group of supports, so that they can be successful in a post-secondary setting. So that's about all that I had to say additionally for Chapter 1. I just wanted to be sure that I clarified on the ages and what different things look like.